Many on the East Coast of America might be surprised to learn that the federal government owns massive amounts of the western states. In Wyoming, the federal government owns about half of our surface estate and 60% of the subsurface estate, or our minerals. In Northeast Wyoming, the Bureau of Land Management's Buffalo Field Office owns and manages over 788,000 acres of land and 4.7 million acres of our mineral estate. In its waning days, the Biden administration issued an RMP amendment for the Buffalo Field Office, which pursued the no new leasing alternative, pulling 481,000 acres of America's largest coal reserves and resources offline, making 48 billion short tons of coal unavailable and ending leasing in the Powder River Basin. The Biden administration's decision to terminate mining in Wyoming's PRB is not only irresponsible and harmful, but downright illegal, a mechanism used by the governing elite to inflict harm on every single citizen of this great country to further climate change lunacy.
As we're having this debate, pretty much the rest of the world is in Brazil right now for the climate conference. Of course, the Trump administration has disgracefully pulled the United States out of the Paris Agreement once again, so we have no federal delegation at all. But as the rest of the world convenes to accept the reality of the climate crisis and to accept the related reality of coal being the biggest contributor to carbon pollution, and the entire world is talking about how to phase down our dependence on coal pollution and fossil fuel pollution, we are here in this alternate reality of the Republican majority, where my colleague from Wyoming calls it climate lunacy. It's a sad, sad testament to, frankly, the disgraceful leadership of this Republican majority that propping up the coal industry with discounted royalties and massive subsidies and millions of acres of land giveaways, and now this misuse of the Congressional Review Act is the official policy of the Republican majority. It's just almost unthinkable, and yet that's where we are.
I rise in strong support of H.J. Res. 130, which would repeal the Bureau of Land Management's Misguided Resource Management Plan, or RMP, amendment for the Buffalo Field Office in Wyoming, which was finalized in the twilight hours of the Biden-Harris administration. Wyoming's Powder River Basin currently supplies 40% of the nation's coal. The RMP amendment in question effectively halted future federal coal leasing across a region in Wyoming larger than New Jersey and located in the heart of America's coal country. Without repeal, the RMP amendment will end coal production in the region entirely by 2041. The RMP amendment will end coal production in the region entirely by 2041 and close 12 active mines. The RMP amendment is a death blow to America's energy security, Wyoming's workers, and the economic backbone of the state itself.
Speaker, all grateful that the Republican shutdown is finally over. But millions of Americans are still on the cusp of losing health care. They are struggling to put food on the table. And after their 7-week paid vacation, I can't imagine anything more disconnected than for House Republicans to come back here and make their first priority not helping working families to make ends meet, but jamming through more favors for their billionaire buddies. These 3 Congressional Review Act, or CRA, resolutions treat America's public lands like they are just lines on a balance sheet. They silence public opinion. They ignore the fires and storms that are made worse by climate change, all of it to make fossil fuel extraction the #1 priority going forward for how we manage our public lands. Wildfire defense, public safety, recreation, conservation, all of these take a back seat now to maximizing corporate profits, even in our most fragile landscapes like America's Arctic. Americans want clean air, clean water, accessible public lands, not handouts to polluters. Overturning balanced, forward-looking BLM plans in Wyoming and Alaska is a colossal mistake. Across the federal land management agencies, plans like these are the foundation for responsible, sustainable management of our public lands. RMPs are the product of extensive public input, rigorous scientific reviews, meaningful tribal consultation, and balancing the activities on our public lands, from energy development to recreation, is what these plans do. They reflect the needs of communities, industries, ecosystems, and they outline a clear vision for the stewardship of millions of acres of public lands. Let's look at the Buffalo Field Office RMP targeted by this particular resolution. It was developed after a court found that the previous plan failed to address the public health and climate impacts of unfettered coal mining in the region. Importantly, the current RMP was also developed after robust tribal consultation and public input. So we're just going to throw that all away? I strongly oppose HRES 130, which would repeal the current balanced RMP for BLM's Buffalo Field Office in order to prop up the coal industry in Wyoming's Powder River Valley. The plan targeted by this resolution ended new coal leasing in the region because of its harm to the climate and public health and because of decreasing demand for coal. At the same time, the plan allowed existing mines to continue to operate through the end of their current leases. Rescinding this plan means locking us into unnecessary emissions and energy costs at a time when the planet and the American people cannot afford it, and it also puts us on a treadmill of litigation and uncertainty, sending us back theoretically to a plan that was already adjudicated to be illegal, or maybe waiting for a new plan to come forward from the Trump administration, and I guess hoping that a future court will decide that it's not substantially similar to the ones that have been thrown out with your CRA. This is something that my friends across the aisle simply haven't thought through. There is so much chaos and uncertainty when the sledgehammer of the CRA is used in this reckless manner. Now, House Republicans already passed and the administration implemented unprecedented giveaways to the coal industry through the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, including slashing the royalty rates for coal from 12% to 7.5%, and opening more than 13 million acres of public lands for coal leasing. But even with these handouts, it's not enough to reverse decades of market contraction in the coal industry. The coal industry is dying. What Republicans don't mention is that BLM's coal lease sales this year have either failed to reach market value, been indefinitely canceled, or received little to no bids. Rather than simply redoing this RMP through the well-established public process, which the Trump administration is already doing, House Republicans want to overturn it using the CRA, again, an extremely blunt instrument that will throw us into great uncertainty and litigation for sure. This choice would lock out the perspectives from previous tribal and public engagement and ban the agency from ever again issuing a substantially similar RMP, leaving land policy frozen in time, really more like frozen in some kind of a limbo. Incredible uncertainty and chaos. House Republicans want to permanently enshrine fossil fuel extraction as the top priority for millions of acres of public land across the country, no matter the cost. And they're picking winners and losers here, blocking affordable renewable energy projects, sacrificing our public lands in the process. I urge my colleagues to reject these reckless resolutions that would upend millions of acres of public land management and reject this entire familiar playbook from congressional Republicans, trying to deepen our dependence on dirty fossil fuels that pollute our air, contaminate our water, and harm the public health, while doing everything possible to slow, stop, or sabotage the development of affordable, renewable energy. Our constituents deserve a lot better than this. We deserve clean, affordable, and reliable energy. We deserve good-paying jobs and affordable health care. And we shouldn't sacrifice America's health, environment, and livelihoods in order to do it. This legislation and my friends across the aisle are on the wrong side of history, trying to prop up the dying coal industry. They're on the wrong side of public land management, and they're on the wrong side of the American people's pocketbooks as they face rising electricity costs. That's why I oppose this resolution and reserve the balance of my time.